I'm Shreya, your host for today, and we are going to discuss something that we have all experienced but very rarely talked about: the communication gap between men and women. We speak the same language, but whenever men and women talk, misunderstandings erupt, and we always end up saying, "No, that's not what I meant." So let's get into it and find out why exactly this gap occurs. For starters, in your experience, what is the main difference in between how a man and a woman communicates?
Well, I'll approach this question in two ways. The traditional classical man, the expectation of man rather, was that he had to be stoic, strong, silent, less communicative. I've had girlfriends in the past who would complain if I talk too much. No? And it's not just in the past, in fact, it happens even with my wife for that matter. Women have very strong intuitive abilities. In other words, they can actually read without the man having to talk. I honestly think that, especially for men, the point is to listen. Because in any communication, the listening is probably more important than the especially from the man's side. Women will do most of the talking. And in fact, even though women tell the guy to talk, in fact, she often will know what the guy wants without her even talking about it. Let me talk about my own personal life. I have a baby who's 1.5 years old. And I keep telling my wife all the time, how do you understand without her even telling what she needs? Women's intuition is fantastic. And she'll say something, I would need a B coded to understand what she's saying, but the mother understands it like that. Not his mother, even the maid, the grandmother, all women seem to understand. I'm like, huh? This is exactly what you said. And that's a gift God has given to womankind, that the basics for that understand toddlers and infants until they learn to talk, communicate very well. And that gives usually can also be used by women for men. So men really don't need to talk too much. Often it's the thought that counts and the actions that count.
Okay,
Right?
so when you said, okay, so there's actually a difference between both of them.
Yes.
Okay, is this difference actually biological, as in it's there from?
Let's call it evolutionary psychology.
Okay.
Imagine, okay, imagine. Okay, I give you a simple example. I'm going to go back to my baby and I'm going to talk about it a lot more because as I've had a baby, I'm learning and she's a girl. I'm learning so many things of man-woman relationship, which I didn't realize even though I've been married now for many years. See, day before yesterday, somebody came home to do a blood test. The little one, when she saw the guy coming, he didn't even take a syringe or nothing. He just wore a mask. She actually got terrified. She started crying, uncontrollably. Next day, the water purifier guy came. Actually, the only comment in the water purifier guy was he came around the same time. He's wearing blue shirt. That's the only thing. She actually again got scared. She started calling mama, 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 because looking at me and calling mama, thinking that mama will come to rescue me. You understand, right? So the point, and remind me, if I had, let's be communicative. Let's say they say men should show emotion. Imagine if I had started acting panicky when the blood guy came or when the whatever guy came. I started acting weird. The baby would go hysterical. The woman also would go. They were not sure. She was would really seem insecure. That's because of a man's evolutionary role as warriors. Imagine you're in a battlefield. You see somebody in front of you. You start screaming loudly. That's exactly what you want to do inside you. You're thinking you're going to die. Imagine you start screaming loudly. Then imagine what will happen. What kind of army is that? So through thousands and thousands of years, we have evolved so that we have to be strong and silent and bear it. The minute you start screaming loudly, the enemy knows you're lost. He gets more confident. He knows you are lost. So we evolved it not just for within the home, within our cave, so to speak, but also within the whether you're hunting animals, because animals can sense fear like that. You see a dog. If the dog knows you're afraid, he will actually probably attack you. On the other hand, if you stand your ground, look him in the eye, then he gets confused. You understand? So women can understand men's silence, animals can understand men's silence, babies can understand men's silence. So I don't think men need to talk so much. That doesn't mean, but of course, having said that, I'm talking in general principle. Not all women will be as intuitive. Not all men may be as silent. You understand? And there's a time and place for everything. There are some times when she wants you to talk, and that because she doesn't know it. So let's say if a woman asks you, "Do you love me?" Now he would think it's a brain dead question. I'm married to you. I have 3 of your children, and I've been living with you for the last 25 years. Obviously, I love you. And if he says that answer, I mean, that's going to crush her. And that's going to crush the relationship on the long run. So there are times when he must be open, not because she doesn't know, because she wants to hear it, because women are suckers for words, just like men are suckers for visuals, women are suckers for words.
So we all know the goal of communication is to say pass on messages to each other, right? But when it comes to women and men, it has a whole lot of things, underlying things to it, right? So do you think there is a goal, specific goal with respect to men and women separately? For example, men, they communicate to solve a certain issue. But women, on the other hand, they probably communicate just to connect, right? So what is your take on that, on the goal of communication?
First of all, it's communication. Many people presume that communication means only words. It's body language. It is your actions otherwise. It's a thought that counts often. Your intention is very important. That's also all communication. And if you will communicate that, you don't necessarily have to in words. And you're right. For men, communication is actually problem solving. So that is what comes to them naturally. Which is why practically every great chess player is a man. Okay, I mean, there are one or two Judith Polgar or whatever, but there's so few. It's surprising because you don't need big equipment or playgrounds or a lot of money to play chess. Women are just not interested. They have a better things doing rather than play chess, because men are good at these kinds of solving problems. Critical thinking. Some things they have a natural predisposition for. But having said that, let's say math. Men have, let's say, innate ability, but women nowadays do as good as men. You know why? Women don't care if there are in some case whether innate ability. If something has to be done, they're so process and duty bound, journey bound. That's what women will say. No, they'll quote the Buddha saying, "The journey is more important than destination." For men, it's the destination that matters. Women, the journey matters. You know, so right. So the point is, coming back to our story, the point about communication is what? Why do you? It's about relationships. As I said, you don't necessarily have to be overt. But if you're not able to communicate, there'll be overt. If you're not, it's like branding. Yeah, if you got already a very famous brand, your logo can be very, very small. If you're a brand who is just trying to make it, your logo should be big. You need to scream it out to the world. It will be a little unclassy, yes, because you're not reached that class level yet. You've still not reached high class enough so that you can make your logo very small. Mercedes-Benz, when just put a triangle, that symbol with the triangle, everyone knows Mercedes-Benz. A new car company will have to probably put their logo in big so people know that people are not aware of it. So it's as simple as that. So the point of communication is what you build relationships, and if you're and then the obvious that's not the end in itself. Hopefully, human well-being and human happiness. If your relationship is good, you're going to feel happy. Human well-being, eudaimonia is going to be kept better. Okay, and then you live a good life. You know, who wants to live in a life where you have trauma all the time, right?
Okay, speaking of women communicating, so why do you think women focus a lot on how things are said rather than what is said?
Yeah, the tone matters a lot.
Yeah, the tone.
They should, and men should know what to say when.
Yeah.
Right, that matters a lot. Okay, then some men have this great habit of always saying, going out what is the wrong place, the wrong time. Not because they're bad people at heart, and the wise one often understands that. Okay, that he doesn't mean it. Okay, but the modern woman will say, it says, why should I have to accept? Why I have to be the wise one here to understand what he wants to say? Why can't he just say it? She also knows it. Now, which is, I think, a little bit unfair because men often do not have the natural talent for that. And especially if she really knows he loves her and he actually doesn't mean it that way, she shouldn't take his words at face value. But unfortunately, in modern relations, most women take these words at face value and say, okay. And you know what happens? When she communicates what he said to somebody else, it sounds much worse.
Yeah.
And then her friends, there's a feedback loop. Her friends, oh my God, what a terrible guy. But then that's actually unfair because in her heart of heart, she knows he probably didn't mean it. He probably is in a bad mood. His tone probably different from what she was communicating to somebody else. Okay. So I think women pay a lot of attention to these subtle cues because again, it's evolutionary psychology, right? Actually, in a baby, the words are not even there. You have to read the body language, the tone, the sound, those, and that's exactly what a woman even reads in the man. You understand? So those things matter to the woman because those extra things are the cues that she takes. Yeah, and she thinks just like in a baby, it should also happen in a guy. So these things matter a lot to her. Exactly, right down to the tiny. when he says, what he says is, and of course, let me also tell you, but having said that, how you say things, what literally all art is. It's not the what is not doing. I mean, I'll give an example. If I tell you a story, boy and girl meet, their parents hate the relationship, and the parents hate each other's families. And the boy and girl realize they can't get married and commit suicide. Now that is Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
But is that, do I sound like Shakespeare to you, right? So the how is actually the most important thing, right? That is what artistic process is. That is what no, how do I say? Human relationship built on that how. Okay, so I don't think in any way you should men should discount the how part. It's very, very important. Try it down to your tone. No, it makes a difference. No, your body language.
Okay. So I think there's a lot of men use silence as a tool a lot of times, maybe because they don't want to say something wrong or anything like that. So they use silence. Okay. But men and women look at silence in a very different way. Men maybe look at it as a tool to just take a break, right? But women might look at it, maybe he's just distancing himself from the entire situation. So what is your take on just silence being a tool?
You're right in both counts. And there's also a third one, because he doesn't know what is afraid that if he says this, he's screwed. He says that, he's screwed. Okay. So he says what's called the Fifth Amendment, which means I keep silent. Okay. Because, whatever happens, there's no right answer. Both can be easily misinterpreted, especially if somebody wants misinterpreted. Okay. So that way he takes, but actually that doesn't help. Because in fact, in a court case in America, for example, the Fifth Amendment is very predominant. You'd think that every guy who's accused will actually choose to take the fifth, which means choose to not speak. But actually that backfires, because often people presume, the jury will presume that you're guilty, that's why you don't want to talk. So that silence doesn't really help at all. So almost nobody takes that, unless you are a terrible speaker on the stand, okay? So silence by itself is not, in fact, silence almost always implies guilt to the other party. He's keeping quiet because he's got something to hide. It's as simple as that, okay? So if you often remain silent when you actually have to talk, that can often be guilt, that then either you have nothing to say, or what you have to say is probably nothing good to say. So right. So I don't think silence always works well, to be honest.
So you might have experienced that while communicating with a woman, they always seem to be indirectly communicating a lot of times today. Why do you think women prefer to communicate indirectly rather than just being direct and just getting to the point?
That's one of men. Ironically, women are the ones who complain about men's being communicative, but actually it's men who actually get exasperated because women just don't say it as it is. Women expect men to understand them just like they understand men. Because women understand men intuitively, but men do not have very good intuitive skills. They have good intellectual skills. They have different sets of brain functions altogether. So men don't have that. Okay. And so, but women, like you said, they have intuitive skills. So they often read, let's say they reach out like this sometimes instead of reaching out like this. Okay. So men would prefer something because he will rather in your face or get an actual truth rather than go around the beat around the bush.
Do you also think it is something to do with the way women are raised or men are raised?
No, it's not. I think it's not really about your family at home right now. It is about, yes, the way women have been raised for 300,000 years. Let's call it that. Okay, that's how they have, but and it's also based on their, let's say, innate personality traits. Okay, women tend to be more agreeable. When you're agreeable, you don't want to say something that's bad. You understand? You also want to be more polite, more courteous. And unfortunately, sometimes politeness and courteousness can be a camouflage for you really think she's or he's like this, though you actually don't want to make them feel bad, so I say like this. But the person listening, it's like this person is really kind of Machiavellian, which means this person is really little bit of you can't take what they say at face value because there's always some hidden meaning to it. Yes.
So do you have any personal experiences where she said something but she meant something totally different?
Oh, all the time. I mean, I'm okay. You will ask my staff or if, let's say, the female colleagues, and let's say we all go out for lunch, and I tell them, "Do you want something?" They obviously they want something, yeah. And many of them will simply say no. And if one girl says no, especially let's call the alpha girl for a better one, all her let's say her colleague, her friends also opponents say, because women tend to agree to in the group. But really speaking, they actually meet the guy, if he's really brain dead and he has no experience with women, he probably think, oh, maybe they're not hungry. He will eat himself. Yeah. Okay, he probably eat himself. No? So that can actually happen. So women can't look and for that man, and but it's not. I'm not blaming him for that. Let's say a woman is interested in a guy, despite what many modern women say. The classical way of 99, even now, more than 80% women do not make the first move. That doesn't mean they're not interested in the guy. They wait for the guy to make the first move. And even if the guy makes the first move, see Hindi movies, right? The guy first makes the first move. You think the guy, women won't immediately say yes, yes, yes. No, she'll make him run. It's also a test. We know how persistent he is, whether he actually will wants me that bad that he will fight for me, so to speak, right? Because it's also a test for her. You know, and it's also like you said, psychology has built over years. Because if she says too far, say yes too fast, he'll think, oh, she's very fast, or she's very loose, or her character is like, if she'd say yes to everybody and anybody, right? Okay, so it's all so what women want is what men can give, and what men want is what women can give. So it's actually a perfect fit. You know, right?
Okay, so what is your advice to the men who are actually struggling to read between the lines or struggling to understand these cues? What is your advice to them?
Okay, let me tell you. Almost every skill can be developed. Almost every skill. Not all of us are born extremely intelligent, but almost everybody, I'll tell you this frankly, can become a doctor or engineer. You may not have a natural talent for STEM subjects, but if you really put your heart and mind to it, you can actually do it. Same thing, let's say, for your intuitive skills. Men may not have, most men may not have intuitive skills, but it's a skill you can develop by just observing and by wanting to do it. If you want to do it, because I want to understand the girls in my life better, whether it's your wife, your daughter, whatever. I want to understand them better, because understanding them better makes your life better and makes you happy also, by the way. Because if the women in your life are miserable, trust me, your life is, you're dead. You understand, right? So at least for your own sake, it's a wise chess move. So we can cultivate the skills, even if you don't innately have it. Almost that's one great thing about human nature. We are not, biology is not necessarily destiny. We have predilection for it, we have propensity for it, we have an inclination for it, yes. But you can develop these skills by observation and first of all the intent that you want to do it.
Do you think this indirectness of women is just it's natural? It's all natural, or do you think sometimes it's just an intelligent move that we?
It's both. I mean, so we all use the skill sets that we have first, right?
Yeah.
So it's natural, yes. And opiates, they use it as a tool to get their way. So it's not a negative in any way, okay? If your zombie is very, let's say, high IQ, he will use that skill set to get his way in. Whatever, there's personal, professional, same thing. So if somebody has some one particular skill set, they'll actually use it. And that's the way, that's why you have the skills. That's why God has given that to you, right? That's why nature has bestowed that on you. So that you can use those skills for whatever.
So during fights, if you've noticed, why do you think men like just shut down and just keep quiet, while women like to escalate, the fight even more?
See, forget about fight. I'm not nice, very elegant, classy women who literally tell me that once in a while they actually shall be their boyfriends. Okay, just to, it's not in that. It's not attention only. You see, they really create a drama. You understand, right? One is because no, for them the emotion is a very important part of it. And when everything is going too placid, they want to rock a boat a bit. Okay, so that there's some emotion come back. There's some movie going on at home, and it makes more interesting, right? Rather than just a placid thing where nothing happens. That's one thing that happens. Okay. Second thing is, it's also a test to find out how much he can handle, how far he can go, whether he can handle me, those kind of things. Okay. And last but not least, it's also attention, because you can't not give attention if somebody is literally screaming at you, right? Because you are, she already will get attention, right? Again, come here, it's like a baby. The baby cries, or baby is wailing, or baby is even screaming. Obviously, you have to look at her or him. So it's automatic for any human being. So that's the way for them to get the kind of attention. And it sometimes can be because the guy doesn't give enough attention. Sometimes it could be because she perceives that he doesn't give enough attention, which means that she probably thinks I must get this much attention, but I'm not only getting this much. Okay, right? So her perception could be that. Okay, come to your question about why men shut themselves when there's a fight. It's very simple reason, but they know that is one battle they cannot win. Okay, they might win every argument with a subordinate in the office who's a girl or a woman. Every argument even with a superior in the office who's a woman. But at home, that's one battle they cannot win because for two reasons. But women want to have the last word. If she doesn't have a last word, she feels as if she's lost. And let's also face it, the home is her kingdom or queendom. The outside is his. So it's only right for him to accede to her power within the home. Because like you said, it's not a question of what to say, also how he says it, when he says it. And remember, he also is emotional. I mean, emotional, you're not thinking right. You can say all the theories and all the troubles talks you can do in the world put together, but when your heart is racing and when your mind is alright, you can't logically think. So often you might blurt out the wrong things. So sometimes better just keep them outside because
Okay, so now that we know that communication gap is a big enough reason to cause problems in the relationships, so what is your advice to couples to bridge this gap that they're facing?
I'm going to tell you something that is probably it runs against the grain which most people who do podcasts or even most psychotherapists agree. With most of them will tell you talk as much as possible. Ironically, there's no doubt that couples today talk much more than couples, let's say, a generation ago or 2 generations ago. And yet, relationships and marriages nowadays last much less time. Olden days, couples didn't need to do that talking. The guy would come home, but she would understand exactly what he wanted. He would exactly understand whatever she wanted. And they would only talk the necessary things. But those are relationships where there's an unspoken undercurrent of strong love. You understand, right? Again, I'm going to go back what I said. Communication is not only words. Sometimes you can understand the other person. Just like, and I tell women, we don't expect that infant or a toddler, right? They can't speak, but you understand everything he or she wants, the baby wants. And he similarly has same skills to understand what the man wants or what he's trying to say without him saying it. And to fault him for not openly saying it, even if it's a compliment. Now, I understand women like compliments. Women like to be appreciated. We like to, but if you really know in your heart of hearts that he really, really loves you, even though he doesn't say it, even though he doesn't try to prove it, even though he doesn't make a big show of it, okay, even though he may not bring you candies and flowers and chocolates. You know the funny thing is, it's a relationship where candies and flowers and chocolates are less. It's where the relationships will last longer. Okay. It's I don't know, it sounds very unromantic, but it sounds too pragmatic, too boring. I get, okay.
But you should
But-
also understand that women use communication for connecting, right?
So yeah.
Where
But the connection doesn't necessarily, I'm coming to that, doesn't necessarily have to be things, whether small gifts or even necessarily words. Communication is so many other things. Just being there is communication. Just being there is communication. See, I'm going to go to a relationship even bigger than man. Let's say man and God. There are people who pray 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day. And there are people who might just say one silent prayer morning, or maybe even not even that, but in the heart of heart, they actually always feel God is there. I often think the second person probably has God in his heart much more than the first one, who's sitting there, kneeling down, praying, prostrating, fasting from morning to night every day. That is just a show of it. The second one probably is more authentic because it's in your heart. You don't necessarily have to scream at it. In fact, I can quote Jesus on it. In fact, he said, "Do not pray like the pagans do, where they spend long prayers and make a big show of it." In fact, the Lord's Prayer is just 6 lines long. That's it. That's enough. That 6 lines long is enough. So I think the same thing, and we have historical evidence for it, right? Relationships did not crash and fall apart like they do now. Relationships lasted forever. Some, of course, lasted out of combustion. I'm not denying that, but most, contrary to what modern men and women will tell you, lasted because genuinely cared for each other.
okay.
So
So can you just give us some real time actions that So you said communication can be through anything, right? It need not be through words, right? So what is your message to our viewers that you can do these things to actually make sure that the relationship remains?
I think, guys, it is not about the doing; it's about the being. Do you really love your guy? Do you really love your girl? That's all that really should matter. Having said that, you should also show that love.
Yeah.
Should also show the love. Okay. Let me ask, men might feel that women always want ask proof of his love for her. But put yourself in her shoe. When you come home, woman doesn't smile at you. She probably just gives you food and walks away. She barely talks to you. Over the time, we begin to think something's wrong with my relationship, right? Even the guy will think that. So in that sense, men can crib a lot that women want too much talking, too much communication, or so too much verbal communication. But actually, men also need that. But men often take you for granted because women give it anyway. Women are more talkative, so anyway they talk. Women, imagine, she just stops talking. You know what's worst thing can happen to me later when I come home? If my wife doesn't talk, then my heart starts racing. I get palpitations. Then there's something, that's something really, really big. If it's a small problem, then she'll at least talk about it. If it's a big problem, she's keeping quiet, then something really off. So even men can understand that. So nobody is 100% typical male or 100% male. So that's a good advantage. We can understand each other. No? So that's why I like the yin and yang diagram, because it's not just two flat semicircles. It is a circle that goes like this, which means a part of it goes into the female part of it goes into the male part. So that's a good thing. So we can understand each other. Okay, because we are part of their personal traits are in us and vice versa. So in that sense, make an effort to also show, because it's nice to hear it once in a while. It's nice to hear it. You like music, you like poetry, you like movies. We need that emotional connection, not just, I know he loves me, I know she loves me. That's good. That's how traditional relationship lasted. I'm not denying that. But we're not living lessons classically. We're not living in olden days. We're living modern days. And women have expectations. And just like men expect women to be communicative, talkative, and smiling and gesturing to him, I think he also should probably reciprocate. The days are gone when she does all the showing I love you, and he just comes home and reads newspaper and goes to sleep and maybe has sex and that's it. But those days are long. That ship has long sailed. That's not going to come back to port, right? So in that sense, women also have a right to expect it. There's another reason for that. Olden days, only the men worked outside the home. And when you work outside the home, your testosterone level goes up. And when you come back home, your testosterone level needs to be subdued. And one of the ways to do this is this. Nowadays, women also are going out. And testosterone is very stressful hormone. This is an aggressive hormone. It creates aggression, right? And so women also, when they come home, they want to feel wanted. They want to feel they come back to their cave. Only men came back to the cave. Now women also come back to the cave. So they don't want a husband who's incommunicado, who's incognito, effectively, who doesn't even have anything to say. Because she also wants her testosterone level to surrender. And for her, it's much more stressful than for a guy, because it's not a natural thing for her. For a guy, testosterone level actually makes him feel good to some extent, except when he wants to unwind, then it needs control. But woman, testosterone at all times is very stressful, yes. When she comes home, she needs something, and coming back to a silent home is terrible. A man coming back to a silent home is okay. In fact, in a way for him, it's like a downtime to recharge back. A woman coming back home, a little bit of silence for me time is important, but more than me time is us time is more important to women. So in that sense, he needs to reach out for her, not to make relations work.
To summarize, can you just tell us in like say 5 quick points that we can do?
First, your love should be authentic. Second, show that you love her. Third, it can be verbal. Fourth, practice your body language so it should actually communicate. Fifth, everything, even intuition is a learned skill, and you can cultivate it. And if you do not have an actually innate talent for it, you can actually cultivate it. And if you get these things right, I think at least as far as the communication aspect of relationship is concerned, you're sorted. That doesn't mean your life is going to be perfect. Then there are other things in life that can blindside you. But this one part is big deal nowadays, and that can be solved. By the way, guys, what do you think? Drop in a comment, and maybe I might just respond in my next podcast.
So maybe the real challenge is not that we speak different languages. It is just that we're trying so hard to be heard, so hard to be loved. So I think if there's one thing that we can take away from today's podcast is speak a little softer, listen a little harder, and when in doubt, don't assume, just ask. Because love isn't about being understood perfectly, but it is about trying again and again. So if you found yourself nodding, laughing, and relating yourself, and at times going, yes, that's me, then like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind. See you.